These triangles are congruent by side, side, side. And you're going to see me, this whole unit, write down these little letters. Sides are in between the letters. So S, 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 that's a side, side, side. And the reason why I know this seems kind of trivial today, because like, duh, they're all sides, Miss Brandt. But trust me, it gets confusing as we add in angles. So S, 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 S. So this is a side, side, side proof. I know that triangle ABC is congruent to triangle RST by side, side, side. If you label the three letters on the diagram where you see things marked congruent, it will help you as things get more complicated. Okay, so first part of our unit, your concepts 15 is just like looking at a pair of triangles and telling me, are they congruent or not? If so, how? So you don't actually have to do a proof for the first learning intention. It's just looking at something like this and telling me, can these be congruent? So right now you have two sides on each triangle, right? Because you have two triangles stuck together. If we're going to prove by side, 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 you need a third side because they all have to have three. So your question is, can I get another side? That's the same. Yes, you can get one. Where? BD is your shared side, which is reflexive. So this is your third S. So this one, so it says decide whether the following triangles can be proven congruent using side, side, side. If so, write a congruent statement. So the reason here, so we say yes by side, side, side. And we're going to start writing this right away. And now you write a congruent statement for the triangles. And this is where I start to see little mistakes because what I'm testing you on is can you get the letters in the right order. Triangle ABD. If I say ABD, then I have to make sure that the next one goes in the same order. So A, if you want to mark your angles, A, B, or like dot them, A, B, D. A corresponds to which letter? C. Now be careful, A, B, D, so then it has to be C, C, D, B, because it's been flipped. So it's not always alphabetical. You have to follow which sides or angles are actually corresponding. On number 2, you already have one side on each triangle. Can I get another side? Yeah, JG. So there's 2. So you can get the shared side, or called the reflexive side, okay? And then make sure you mark it differently. That one has to have 2 notches, not 1. Can I get a third?
No, it doesn't state that that's the midpoint.
It doesn't say that it's the midpoint. So you have to be told that G is a midpoint or that JG is a bisector. If you're not told those things, and you can't assume, because that would make an ass out of you and me. So please don't assume it unless you are told. Okay? So the answer here is no. You weren't told anything about G. I don't know. If you need an explanation there, you can add it. So then if you look at number 3, obviously we have the same kind of situation, but this time you're actually given the word. So this time on G, you can still do the shared side, but this time you're told that G is a midpoint. So can I say that FG is congruent to HG now? Yes, because you are told. So mark it with 3 notches, and I can say yes. And the reason here is because of side, side, side. S, 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 S. Sides are in between the letters. The order of your first one doesn't matter at all. If I want to do F, J, G, I just got to make sure the next one follows that same pattern. So if I started with F, which one do I have to start with on the other side? H, H, J, G. Going to be okay. These are our favorite proofs all year. FJ is congruent to HJ. And G, if I could write that quickly, G is the midpoint of FH. Make sure your reason says given. I would just double check and make sure in my picture I have the stuff marked that's given. FJ is congruent to HJ. Is that marked in the picture? Yeah, so you don't have to do it yourself. And then you're also told that G is a midpoint, so we'll use that in a second. So you do have some key words we'll use. The first thing we look for is freebies in the picture. Can you talk at your table? What freebie do you have? Okay, what do we have that we can go ahead and use from the picture? Do you know what that's called? Look at your cheat sheet. Reflexive, or I heard a lot of us say shared side, which is fine, it just doesn't count as a reason. So what you're going to say is that JG is congruent to JG, which like duh, but you have to say it, okay? And the reason is what you have on your cheat sheet, reflexive. Okay, so right now you have two sides. You need three to be able to use side, side, side. Where do I get the third? Yeah, so you have to use your key words. G is a midpoint. It would help if I use a highlighter. If you have a midpoint, look at your cheat sheet. If I'm told that something is a midpoint, then I know that it's cutting a side in half. So G is a midpoint. That means that these two at the bottom should be the same. So mark it right away so you can actually see it. Mark it, then say it. So I would say FG is congruent to, what do I have to say? HG, because F and H are corresponding. And the reason for that is on your paper, on the gold paper you have, I use the definition of the midpoint, which is because that's the word it gave you. So please don't make up a new word because you have to use the words you're given. We've done proofs long enough that hopefully we know. You take the thing that you're trying to prove and always put it at the end. So that part right there, you don't need to think for yourself on. Please make sure it matches that exact statement. Hold on, I'll write down a second. You are done because you have SSS, SSS. That's why it's important to mark the picture as you go so you actually know when you have everything done, okay? If I'm going to prove it by side, 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 I have to have those three sections. So triangle FGJ is congruent to triangle HGJ, and the reason is side, side, side. Write it down and make sure they're also marked in the picture. Okay, and your reason needs to say given. Okay, we look at the picture and see if this stuff is actually marked. AB is congruent to EK. Has that been marked? No, so you need to do it right away. And that'll be the case a lot of times with the things in your givens. Make sure it's actually marked. And that's it. Because you're told AE and BK bisect each other, and that's something you kind of have to think about, what that means. Are there any freebies in the picture? Yeah, you could do vertical angles. I'm not going to write it down today just because are we proving with any angles today? No, we're doing side, 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 so actually it doesn't matter today. You could do vertical angles though, and if you add it in your proof and still use side, 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 it doesn't actually make a difference. You're not going to lose points or anything. But I'm not going to do anything with vertical angles because it doesn't help me prove with side, side, side today. We are told that AE and BK bisect each other. So what that means is happening, right, is you have, I'll try and highlight them, these two sides. Bisect means what again? cut in half. So these sides cut each other in half. So that means that I have two sections that are congruent, right? I have BP would be the same as this one, because that gets cut in half. And then this section is the same as that one. So it is a little bit different than what you have on your cheat sheet, but it is still talking about segments being cut into two pieces. So you can actually say each section. I think we've done some like this before. So write down what you just marked. So I know they cut each other in half. I know that I've got two, and I am allowed to write them on the same line. I'll try and color code for you. So AP is congruent to what letter do I have to say first? E, because A and E are corresponding. AP is congruent to EP, and then on the same line, for number 2, I can go ahead and also say BP is congruent to what? KP. Okay, the reason is the same for both of these, which is why I get to put them on the same line. Definition of what this time? Okay, your word here is bisect. I'm going to be picky this unit. You need to be specific. What kind of bisector are we talking about? Segment or angle? Segment. Okay, so you need to look at, make sure it says the right thing. Definition of a segment bisector, which I believe is what's on your paper, on your cheat sheet. It does say segment bisector. So don't just say definition of a bisector, because you're going to have angle bisectors next week. If you've marked your diagram as you go, then you should know when you're done. I'll zoom out in a second. So you've got S, 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 side, 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 side. Are we good? Yeah, so you can go ahead and say the final thing, which is this. Wow. Triangle ABP is congruent to triangle EKP by what reason? Side, side, side.